Major League Baseball calls off their TV deal with ESPN coming up in 2026, signing what was called minimal coverage. We'll discuss. The NFL salary cap rises once again by nearly $22 million, what that means going forward. The NBA All-Star Game format change may have been welcomed, but TV ratings plunge again for the third year in a row. PK Subban criticizes and calls out NBA players in wake of the NHL's very successful Four Nations face-off instead of a regular traditional all-star game this season. The college football playoff is talking about expansion already after 1 year of a 12-team format. And we'll get to our three press clippings involving the three biggest stories we cannot cover in their full entirety. That and more on Press Row on a Thursday night, right here and right now. This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. And good evening, everybody, and happy Thursday, right near the weekend as we wrap up another full week of coverage here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, live here from sunny San Diego, California, on a beautiful Thursday evening, February 20th, 2025. Welcome back in, folks, to another live edition of Press Row, covering all of the big sports news from the business and media angles here on our podcast here as we kick off with our second full episode here for the new year here in 2025. Of course, folks, yours truly, Callan McClurg, back with you here in studio here in San Diego. As always, folks, here on Press Row, we bring you all of the big news and updates, basically, involving the angles of sports business and sports media. Again, a lot of ground to cover on this Thursday, so we really will not waste much more time. But as always, if you're joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, or live on Twitch, again, fire away with your questions, comments, or concerns, and we'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary is read and live on the air here this evening. And again, we thank you all so much for joining us here on Press Row and here on C2C. With that, folks, we will dive into our bulletin board of our topics for the night. We'll first, folks, start on the day that spring training began for the Major League Baseball season for 2025. But that also came, though, with a major bombshell story dropped by Evan Drellich of The Athletic earlier in the evening. But Major League Baseball and ESPN have formally announced their intentions to mutually agree to part ways and end their broadcasting rights 3 years earlier than expected after failing to renegotiate terms per a announcement made in a memo sent to all 30 owners by League Commissioner Rob Manfred. This also came in wake of his annual opening remarks, his opening kind of State of the League address in both Florida and in Arizona on Tuesday and Wednesday to kind of talk about the upcoming season. And this was also a very big talking point that was brought up, though. But here, though, is the reason why that this deal has been nixed by Major League Baseball and by ESPN 3 years before the timeline ends. First one, of course, is money. A financial dispute had been arising between both ESPN and Major League Baseball, with ESPN feeling that the $550 million annual fee was too high for their liking, especially compared to deals with Apple and Roku, with MLB rejecting ESPN's request to lower or reduce the fee for the broadcast package, which went to a quote, though, folks, that Rob Manfred laid out, though, in this lengthy 5-page essay that was a memo sent, as I mentioned, to all 30 owners. But the two words, though, that came up was minimal coverage, open and close quote, whereas the commissioner's remarks, I'll more about that in a second. Also, declining linear reach, with the league citing ESPN's declining linear television reach as another major concern. Also being talked about coverage complaints, with the league also expressing dissatisfaction with the limited non-game coverage it received on ESPN, a la what was already talked about of minimal coverage by the commissioner's wording. Future plans now include that Major League Baseball will intend to seek new broadcasting partners, citing significant interest from other reunion further down the road. While the current deal does end after the season, both sides have left the door open for future collaboration, though ESPN would need, though, to adjust their approach to become possible sometime in the not-too-distant future, but obviously it will be ending after the 2025 season does conclude. Let's, folks, start real quick with some other numbers that were not on screen, but I do have written down here in front of me. $550 million for ESPN is one thing. Major League Baseball is getting $85 million with the Apple TV Plus deal on Friday Night Baseball. They're getting another $10 million in revenue via the Roku Sunday morning, Sunday leadoff. This was the Peacock game a while back. That was like at 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning Pacific time. That now has jumped to Roku only, and that won't start till Mother's Day, May 11th. Baseball is getting $10 million from Roku. So that's $95 million that they're getting from Apple TV Plus for Friday night games, and $10 million for a smaller package on Roku devices that only starts in May and runs to, I believe, August 31st. So that right there is $95 million from two streaming platforms. I think the deal with Fox Sports will be fine because you have Tuesday night games, I believe, on FS1. You also have coverage on TBS, TNT. Also now, I think, becomes a bit of a talking point now. Again, TNT losing the NBA. Now with this coming to the forefront, does ESPN leaving MLB behind now potentially open the door for Turner to recoup their NBA losses next season, with them having the deal in place with TNT and TBS currently as it stands right now for, I believe, the American League DS and ALCS right now in the current package and current where the packages currently stand. But most importantly, minimal coverage on ESPN. Let's talk more about bullet point 4. That is a complaint I have. I think a lot of baseball fans would agree that has been ESPN's downfall. Not for me not liking the main product on their platform, which is the NFL. But ever since, I really feel, though, that ESPN took Baseball Tonight off of their regular program schedule, that right there began this chain reaction / domino effect that now has Major League Baseball in this pickle or predicament against ESPN. So I think bullet point 4 weighs a lot heavier than bullet point 2, bullet point 3, bullet point 5, bullet point 6. If I had a telestrator, I would circle coverage complaints on the screen if I was like a professor actually giving you the skinny on this, or, you know, telling you what I feel. But I do believe that when you hear Rob Manfred, who I know a lot of people are not high on as a commissioner, myself included, but though when I hear the commissioner of a sport say, we have a coverage problem with our sport and with one of our partners, that does speak volumes. I think that really does speak volumes. And I absolutely 100% am on board with Commissioner Manfred. That bullet point 4 outweighs the other bullet points on our slide here. Because when I flip on the TV and I flip to ESPN, regardless of what time of year it is, I can guarantee that in that 1 o'clock p.m. time slot, weekday afternoons, I will see the words NFL Live from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then from noon to 1, I'll see NBA Today. But if I scroll along my TV guide, there is nothing about baseball on that TV guide for ESPN, ESPN2, or any of the other what feels like billion and trillion networks that they own on cable TV. So I agree with Commissioner Manfred. That is minimal coverage that doesn't help our sport. The whole package, folks, is only Sunday Night Baseball, the wild card rounds of the postseason, and the Home Run Derby. That's it. No more, no less. And you also gutted Baseball Tonight. I looked forward to Baseball Tonight every night after games would end to watch all the highlights. Even leading up to games, like in the afternoon, that there would be a show in there somewhere to talk about the game. And that goes to a long-standing point I've had, though. When you keep oversaturating your television lineup with the same people and the same styles of shows, and it covers the same sporting leagues that not everybody cares to watch, you at ESPN, you have a problem. And why do you think now that Major League Baseball wants to leave you high and dry after nearly 35 years of being partners in business? Because you don't cater to Major League Baseball. And you don't cater to baseball fans except for one game on Sundays, which usually involves the LA Dodgers and New York Yankees, and the other 28 teams are left in the dust. That's all you care about. And then you scrap Baseball Tonight to give baseball fans a reprieve from all this basketball talk and football talk in the middle of the baseball season. You know, I always love like the old memes of like when Tim Tebow was contemplating, his retirement, or, where's Brett Favre going to go? We're smack dab in the middle of the pennant race, and we're leaning off the coverage about, we got to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguar fans throwing a protest about the not signing Tim Tebow. Or we got to talk about, some scrub kicker signing with the Buffalo Bills. That's more important than talking baseball in the middle of the pennant race. And then ESPN wonders why people don't watch their network. If you're going to call yourselves the Entertainment Sports Programming Network, I believe that involves you talk about baseball and football and basketball and hockey and soccer and volleyball and lacrosse and wrestling and all the other sports that are out there. But you don't continue to keep shoving First Take and NFL Live and NBA Today down people's throats when they're not in seasons. Figure it out and find a way to change that 1 o'clock time slot. If I was so desperate for NFL talk year round, I would watch NFL Network. Yes, you can say, well, why just watch MLB Network? I do. I watch that, and I watch NHL Network way more than I watch ESPN. And I really don't know if I can support ESPN in the summertime when they take away my favorite show in the 2 o'clock time slot, which is Around the Horn. But regardless, Major League Baseball, I think, finally stood their ground and said, we're tired of this. And again, I think that bullet point 4, the league expressing their dissatisfaction with the limited non-game coverage, like Baseball Tonight or a studio talk show involving baseball, and just the coverage of a sport in general not being where it once was, I can see why the league is unhappy. I know I'm unhappy because I do consider myself to be an ESPN fan, but I'm further like detracting because I'm tired of seeing the same talent on every single day, and I'm tired of NFL Live being on in the middle of the offseason. Again, I will say it. If you are desperate, folks, for football talk, go watch NFL Network. But I also think, though, that as the commissioner did also say away from the coverage complaints segment there, again, just looking at my notes, Major League Baseball is going to get $85 million this year from Apple TV Plus for just the Friday night package. And they're going to get $10 million more for the Roku package beginning, I believe, May 11th. And that's going to run from May till August. So right now they have $95 million lined up in revenue. But again, it's only for one day of coverage. And sadly, not on a lot of platforms that I think people still have not fully grasped yet. I'm talking about Apple TV Plus, and I'm talking about Roku. But now I do think, though, that with ESPN and Christy, Christy Wilson does ask. So, Callan, since ESPN is now out, which network does MLB go to next? Christy? TNT and TBS. Because I think if I'm Warner Brothers Discovery, and I know damn well I'm losing the NBA package once the season concludes, now I would hope to be first in line, or my phone rings right away with MLB Media saying we'd love to bring baseball to TNT and TBS. Already having the pre-existing playoff package in place with TBS and TNT already helps. Already helps. And they can retain talent. I love Brian Anderson. I love his work with the Brewers, and I love his work on TNT and TBS for the NBA, and also with Major League Baseball come the playoffs. So, Christy, I would think TNT and TBS and Turner Sports become the next option, because Turner's going to look at this and say, well, we're going to lose the NBA. Let's go and get Major League Baseball. Longer season compared to the NBA, regular season game-wise. Now, I know the problem might be, though, well, it was, but now it's not, NBA postseason conflicting with Major League Baseball. That's not a thing anymore. It's not a thing anymore. So I think TNT and TBS better be on the phone, and they better be front of the line, I think, to be able to snag the MLB rights when this deal does, in fact, run out soon. Christy also chimes in and says that ESPN has completely lost their way, in her opinion. Christy, I think a lot of sports fans agree with you. Again, I don't want this to, again, folks, sound like one of my trademark, Callan hates the NFL, don't bother listening to do his takes. I just think ESPN as a whole has lost their way. Just for the fact of it's the same material every weekday. It's the same shows, the same talent. It's the same stagnant stuff of, well, we got to talk the NFL, in the middle of the offseason. I understand, though, that, the NBA still, obviously, they're in season. NHL still in season. But I think your priorities are out of whack when you keep catering to the NFL in the middle of February. Again, football fatigue is a thing. Whether you want to agree with me or not, that's your own stance. Me personally, again, I don't care for the NFL or football in general, minus the college game and the indoor game of football. But we should be having some kind of excitement on ESPN right now. We literally had the first game of the spring training season, the debut of the automated balls and strikes system today that was used. Yes, I know Bobby Miller took a line drive off the head today for the Dodgers. But there needs to be budding excitement. Stop trying to make the NFL offseason exciting. We had a blowout Super Bowl, and now let's just kind of decompress and worry about other sports for once. Can we do that? Or am I the only one who does that? I think, Christy, that the priorities at ESPN, though, have been way out of whack for a while. And I think, Christy, when ESPN cut baseball tonight and moved it either to ESPN Plus, or they only kept it just to the countdown show for their Sunday night baseball game, that turned a lot of baseball fans off. And I know I'm one of them, and I'm glad that I have MLB Network so I can watch baseball 24/7. I know I hate the Dodgers, but I watched their game today because it was baseball. It was live baseball from Camelback Ranch in Glendale, Arizona, and the Cubs beat the crap out of them, but it was baseball. My team wasn't playing, and I still watched because it was baseball. But I think, though, again, good on Rob Manfred, putting his foot down and saying, look, we're tired of kind of being treated like we're a nobody. We've been in business for 35 years, and this is the thanks that we as a league get for being loyal to you, ESPN, for 35 years. Give me a break. But to reiterate my thoughts, Christy, I think TNT and TBS now become front of the line now, with them missing out now on the NBA media after the season concludes. And again, I think you have to find a cable or regular TV option, Christy, because you're looking at getting $85 million combined between your Apple TV Plus deal and Roku deal. But again, that's only on Friday and Saturday, or Friday and Sunday, I mean. Now, Fox, I think, is going to be fine. I think Fox might be able to work something out with both your local Fox affiliate to keep games on regular TV for people who aren't paying for cable, and maybe on Fox Sports 1. So I think Fox and Turner Sports become the two front runners to land the MLB package now that ESPN is going to be, gone goodbye, sayonara here after the season does conclude. But again, we'll see what happens. But I applaud Rob Manfred for saying we're tired of this crap. We're tired of being treated like an afterthought when we are America's national pastime. Which ties into my point. I don't care for NFL football talk on February 20th. We had the glamour of a Super Bowl. Enough. Wait till draft day. You can wait till April to start talking about next NFL season. Let baseball, basketball, and hockey cook right now, as long as what I'm getting at. Speaking of the NFL, folks, we'll move on now to another major shift in NFL finances. But the NFL salary cap will rise, and the per-team salary cap for next season will rise by about $22 million, landing between a whopping $277.5 and $281.5 million, which follows a record number of $255.4 million cap in 2024, considering a very great trend of substantial increases for the NFL. The final cap number is pending as the NFL and NFLPA right now decide how to handle a $9 million deferral from last year's cap. And the large cap jump also reflects the league's strong financial position, driven by lucrative media right deals, and the increased benefits from the cap will also benefit players and GMs, providing more financial flexibility. And the final cap figure is expected to be finalized before the NFL scouting combine, which precedes the start of free agency sometime in March or even in early April. Yes. Did I just pile upon the NFL about, for the last 20 minutes? Yes. But I am a person who gives credit where credit is due, whether I like them or whether I like it or not. Yes, the NFL is the king. Iron fist ruler. The cult of personality of North American pro sports. I am not trying to discourage that. As someone who does not support the NFL because they left my market about 8 or 9 years ago, but I respect greatness when I see it. And what the NFL has done, though, with their business model, when it comes to the revenue, when it comes to the TV deals, and what they do, what they do over a 18, 19, 20-week-long season is incredible. And when you are successful like the NFL is, you reap the benefits. And again, the per-team salary cap going up about $22 million. That is amazing. And that's also, folks, in a season, of course, that I know saw a very, I think, surprising Super Bowl finish again with the Chiefs going for the 3P and then just getting absolutely clobbered by the Eagles. And that saw the Eagles win their second Super Bowl in, I believe, an 8-year span. But also on the heels, though, of a phenomenal regular season. Again, the Chiefs, 9 straight division titles, another AFC title. Call it what you want about the referees, but again, another great year for the Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills, once again. The Lions, again, having a great year. The Vikings coming out of nowhere this season. Washington getting all the way to the NFC title game this season. There were a lot of great storylines in the NFL that I didn't pay attention to, but I cater to all of you out there who like the NFL, whether I like it or not. What a season. And again, when you are as dominant, as successful, as captivating as the NFL product is, whether, again, I like it or not, everyone reaps the benefits. So we'll see what that final number, folks, does become. But this was certainly, I think, and I think Christy agrees, that this season was definitely interesting. I think, Christy, you're right. I would say it was interesting, again, as the outsider looking in. Chiefs, 9 straight division titles. Win for a three-peat. Never been done before in NFL history. Detroit, second straight year of Dan Campbell turning around a beleaguered franchise in the Motor City. The Vikings in a renaissance project in Sam Darnold and Kevin O'Connell winning Coach of the Year. Amazing. The Commanders, Dan Quinn changes that culture out of nowhere. They get to the NFC title game. The Broncos, with a rookie in Bo Nix getting into the postseason for the first time in over a decade because of their ownership problems. A very interesting, great year. And again, props to Philadelphia for taking down the champs. There's the old saying, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And they went out there and punched the Chiefs in the mouth. And just owned them in the Super Bowl. And I don't think a lot of us saw that coming. And certainly, Christie, it was a very interesting season. But now also, I think, though, that we'll see what this does. But to kind of maybe piggyback off of the NFL for a second and go back to baseball. Obviously, of course, we know what the LA Dodgers have done over the course of the offseason with their spending spree and the commentary about, is this good for the game and stuff like that. I don't want baseball to adapt a NFL-style salary cap, but I would be all in favor of a spending floor. You set the bar at like $120 or $100 million, and all 30 clubs need to spend that much money to get to an even playing field. I've heard so many rumblings and so much chatter. The Dodgers payroll is going to be like $304 million this opening day, and the Miami Marlins are going to have a payroll of $58 million. I would like to see that come to fruition. I don't want a cap, but the franchises who are only there just to collect paychecks and revenue from their fans, there needs to be that kind of a loophole in place or a requirement. You must spend X amount of dollars and cents, or you will be financially penalized or penalized in some capacity. And I think, though, that when you look at the NFL model, again, I don't want the cap, but I look more about how the NFL lets teams restructure contracts. We hear that a lot about, a certain guy will take, a pay cut or restructure the deal to move money to further down the line so they can go and get more players now, a la the Dodgers being the LA deferrals. I know a lot of people were upset about that. Folks, that this has been going on. I just have to say Bobby Bonilla. He deferred all that money. And we enjoyed that holiday, yet we don't want to say that about the Dodgers. Yes, I know I do not like the Dodgers. But it's within the rules, sadly. Unless we want to start, putting the Dodgers and Bobby Bonilla in the same boat. Regardless, though, folks, the NFL salary cap, again, will be going up by about $22 million following a record high 255.4 last season, which is a trend of huge increases of substantial proportions for the NFL product. And the larger cap jump also reflects the strong financial position, driven by the lucrative media right deals that they have with CBS, Fox, NBC, and also with ESPN. I'm going to probably say that figure goes to 277.5 first. That'd be probably most preferred. And if it goes up further, then fine and dandy. That way, I think it would be able to let some of the teams who had dismal years last year maybe have a better chance to spend money elsewhere and bring in some more established veteran players for their rosters. We'll see what comes out of that. But again, I know I'm not an NFL fan, folks, but again, I salute, tip of the cap, whatever. The NFL is the king. And there's no stopping it. What they do, what they have done, what they will continue to do, and how they captivate a sports audience. I totally respect it. Don't like the sport, don't like the product. But you give credit where credit is due, and I've done that. And again, we'll see, though, where that number does lie, and I'd say probably about 3 to 4 weeks by the time that March or April does roll around. All right, we're going to go, folks, to the NBA and talk about the dismal weekend that was the NBA All-Star Weekend. But the All-Star Weekend up in San Francisco saw record low viewership despite a new tournament format for the main game, with key points including that the All-Star Game averaged 4.7 million viewers, which plunged 13% from last year and the second lowest ever watched All-Star Game in history, while Saturday night's events also had a record low audience of 3.4 million viewers, with the past 3 All-Star Games having all been below 6 million viewers. Key player absences like Lakers star LeBron James, Bucks power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Wolves star Anthony Edwards hurt the star power and talent. The new tournament format received negative feedback, too, from players in the game. Saturday night was also hurt by the lack of a Serena Ionescu and Stephen Curry type contest, and also by competition from the USA-Canada Four Nations face-off game in Montreal, Quebec, Canada that was on ESPN. The only highlight was Callan McClurg, no relation to Callan McClurg for the third year in a row, who won a slam dunk contest in his performance where he won his third straight championship for the tournament, and also has won more earnings doing that than his current contract with the Oscar Magic in the NBA G League, with the NBA now considering more changes to the All-Star Game weekend format, including a potential 1v1 tournament. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. I got up and thought about grabbing one of my 25-ounce Miller Lights to open up here and tribute to Bob Uecker and try and talk about this All-Star Game weekend. 4.7 million viewers decided to suck it up and watch the All-Star Game tournament on Sunday. 13% decrease from the year prior. 3.6 million viewers watched the All-Star Game Saturday and saw Callan McClurg, once again, no relation to yours truly, Callan McClurg in studio, win the dunk contest for the third year in a row, where he's made more money off the dunk contest victories the last 3 years than he's earned playing in the NBA G League with various organizations. The past 3 NBA All-Star Games have brought in below 6 million viewers on television. What are we doing, NBA? What are we doing, Commissioner Silver? I have a one-word question that was said by Rabbit in the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh when he invited Pooh Bear over to his house for lunch. Why? Why did I ever invite that bear to lunch? Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why? If you're someone who watched the All-Star Weekend, I do have to ask, why? Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why did you waste your Saturday or Sunday watching the single most broken All-Star game in professional sports history be played on Sunday? I said, folks, on here back in January, the day the news came out of the All-Star Game format being changed, Kevin Durant of the Suns, in 7 words, shared every basketball fan sentiment. I hate this. I absolutely hate it. 7 words. 7 words. 7 words. Stace. 7 words is all it took for a star player to say, No, thanks to the All-Star weekend. I don't understand the NBA's logic. And as I'll get to, folks, in my next segment, even former players who aren't even basketball players threw this All-Star weekend under the bus and ran tire tracks up and down it, put it in drive and reverse. So again, let me reiterate once more. The past 3 NBA All-Star games, all 3 of them, including this season, were all below 6 million viewers. This just further goes to my point that you need to ditch the All-Star game and just let the in-season tournament cook the week of the All-Star game festivities. I really hope this weekend shuts up all the slander about my beloved NBA Cup tournament. Because even these players aren't taking the All-Star game seriously. On top of the regular season tomfoolery. No, Dalton Connect is not an All-Star. Caitlin Clark got into her All-Star game because she got voted in by the fans. And didn't have to play a gimmick game to get into the damn All-Star tournament or a game. So miss me with that slander and that BS. A 13% dip again in All-Star game ratings needs to do something. Again, I don't want a one-on-one tournament. As I told James on Monday, I know that Unrivaled, the upstart women's basketball league done by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, had their 1v1 tourney with Queen Fee winning it all. Again, she got a $200,000 check and got a pretty kick-ass trophy where the crown comes off the trophy and they can put it on their head. The absolute last thing I would want to watch is a 1v1 NBA All-Star tournament. Somebody loses and they get their feelings hurt and they feel embarrassed. Because I could see that being a thing. And this should also be another point driven home. The fantasy-style sports draft needs to stop. Because I've had my reservations about that too. And call it what it is, folks. The NBA All-Star Game is a pure gimmick. Not the NBA Cup. The All-Star Game is a gimmick. I think we can tweak this format a million times over. And 999,999 times, it's not going to be the proper system or the proper format. Now, does LeBron James get the blame? Because he calls out of the game 3 hours before the game starts because, oh, my foot hurts. And to James's point on Monday, that took a spot away from somebody like Norman Powell from the Clippers. You know, LeBron ruining the shot of all of the All-Star captains, I believe, by being in his tan suit and his white T-shirt and not being in uniform. So the All-Star game is broken, and the All-Star Saturday is broken. Again, like James and I said on Monday, if a guy playing in the AAA ranks of the NBA family in the NBA Gatorade League in Osceola, Florida, who is not related to yours truly and the host of this show, wins the dunk contest for the 3rd year in a row, that is flat out embarrassing for the NBA. That not even Giannis, Ja, LeBron, Connect, none of those guys want to do the dunk contest? I know James alluded to the fact that John Giannis were kind of, chirping on Twitter about maybe doing it next year. Why not this year? Why does it take a minor leaguer showing up the big boys 3 years in a row to finally like, oh, we might need to start partaking in this thing. Look at this white guy fly. Where was that 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? I know Vince Carter isn't walking through that door anymore. Not even Zach LaVine or Aaron Gordon are walking through that door. Neither is MJ, neither is Dr. J. But again, if we're calling this the All-Star Weekend, then if I'm paying my money to go next year to Intuit Dome in LA or Inglewood to watch the festivities, I better damn well see the All-Stars out there. Not guys from the Osceola Magic or the Wisconsin Herd or the Indiana Mad Ants or the San Diego Clippers or the Valley Suns or the Austin Spurs. I want guys from the San Antonio Spurs, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Sacramento Kings, the Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks, the Orlando Magic. Not guys from the Osceola Magic or the Delaware Bluecoats. That's why this headline is Dim the Stars. Because this is not no all-star game. This is the dim stars game. The mid stars game. The players you never heard of game. That's what this has become. And I don't usually agree with Draymond Green, but when he said that this format stunk on TNT, I was right there with him. Yes, I did not watch any of it because I was working all weekend. An 8-hour day on Saturday and a full hockey game on Sunday. Even if I was not working, I would not have watched the All-Star festivities. I watched that USA-Canada, the USA-Canada highlights. I would have watched that game over watching the NBA All-Star Game festivities. I might have watched the celebrity game just to see, Pamela Martinez, a.k.a. Bailey from WWE Wrestling, to see her three-point shot and how she played without doing a rose plant DDT on somebody. And even then, the NBA All-Star Weekend has just become dull, bland, boring, and needs to go away. I'm sorry, James, but I would replace this All-Star game with my beloved in-season tournament semis and finals. Rotated around like the All-Star game. Vegas will get a team eventually. So will Seattle. But move the semis and the finals of the NBA Cup to All-Star Weekend. Play the semis on Friday. Take the day off on... And if you absolutely have to have the dunk contest and all the other minutia that's out there, you can have that on Saturday. And then save the NBA Cup final for Sunday. But again, rotate it. Go to Intuit Dome next year. Go to Gainbridge. Go to Phoenix Suns Arena. I don't know. That's what I would do. Or name the guys all-stars and say, you're an all-star. You don't want to play then? Forget about it. You're fined. There's no game. Because all of you ruin it for our fan base when you don't play. Again, I don't want any more slander about the NBA Cup. Again, if I have to reread again, a 13% decrease. Decrease meaning it goes down, like the stock market on Monday morning. And $3.6 million for All-Star Saturday. This is not accomplishing one damn thing for the NBA, other than further making this the most embarrassing pro sports league right now, from top to bottom. That includes the regular season and also the All-Star weekend. The only saving grace is the postseason. That might be harsh. I love basketball. I love the NBA as a fan who just loves to watch basketball. But I do believe that the NBA product has become embarrassing from top to bottom. And yes, James, I know that I love Adam Silver, but my goodness, I will right now criticize him that his product has become lackluster. It's lazy. It's boring. Putrid. Sickening. And I have some backup in our next talking point here when I say that the NBA product is beyond putrid and embarrassing. Plenty of thoughts from Christy Wilson. She says that the WWE NXT PLE Vengeance Day was also happening on Saturday night, so people are watching that as well, on top of, again, Four Nations Face-Off going on, USA, Canada, again, 3 fights in 9 seconds, you name it. James does write in that USA versus the world is the only path I see forward. James, that might be the saving grace, but not when you have, just personally, not when you have the FIBA World Cup every 2 years and you have the Olympics every 2 years too. I think that format would get stagnant after a while, sadly. I mean, I know that the players would be for it, but I just don't see that lasting, sadly. I really don't. I mean, the NHL tried Team North America or Team USA versus the world or Team USA versus Europe one time, and again, the format wasn't as great. James further writes in that nothing exhibition means anything anymore, basically. I also want to go back real quick and go to bullet point 7. I said this on Monday, but I know some people were either disappointed or they were kind of, ranting for no reason, thinking they know about women's basketball when the announcement was made that the Ionescu, Curry, or Caitlin Clark and Ionescu, Curry, and Thompson 3-point shootout would not happen. That, folks, was not the calling of Caitlin Clark or Sabrina Ionescu. That was by the NBA cutting it out of the All-Star Weekend programming. And also that Ionescu was already booked with the Unrivaled League's one-on-one tournament down in Florida, on top of Caitlin Clark saying, I need a break. And further saying, if I'm going to be in a 3-point shootout, my first one will be in my league's All-Star game, in my home arena, in my city, this summer in Indianapolis, Indiana. So again, cut me the baloney. Cut me the slack. Cut me the crap. This is not Ionescu and Clark's fault. Blame that on the dingbat NBA commissioner in ESPN for cutting it out of the program. They wanted nothing to do with it this year in 2025. How is that Sabrina and Caitlin's fault? May I remind you, too, that Caitlin Clark, per Front Office Sports, generated $36 million in revenue for the city of Indianapolis this past WNBA season. $36 million in revenue for women's professional basketball in Indianapolis, Indiana, because of Caitlin Clark. And the fact that her and Reese and Brink and all these rookies had to shoulder the burden of carrying that league to the finish line this past season with all of the negative publicity, she deserves to take the break and a chance to catch her breath. As I've said, folks, plenty of times, because I've interviewed, because I know players. I've known players and I know players who have played in the WNBA. You have no time to catch your breath. Once you're drafted, you're literally in training camp 2 days later. And you're going from playing in college to being drafted, right into rookie workouts and into the training camp, and then bang, you're playing games to start off the season in May, and then you're going all the way to the finish line. There's no one there to catch your breath. And think too, that the Indiana Fever played, I think, the most games in the first 3 weeks of the regular season, on top of all the other crap that we had to talk about over the course of last season. So anybody giving Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark the brunt of the stick and so much crap about the 3-point shootout not happening, it wasn't their call. Stay in your lane. You know who I'm talking about, too. Other thoughts real quick from James. He says, the NBA Cup does suck, but we may have to try Callan's way someday. That's all I can think of, James. If we're going to add any kind of pizzazz, any kind of drama or excitement, and again, easily the most boring regular season in all of North American pro sports, in my opinion. And again, I love the NBA product. I love basketball as much as the next guy does, James. But you've got to do something different. And if that involves and just doing it Callan's way, then so be it. But I think it'd be cool if you were able to have the NBA Cup semis and finals next year at Intuit Dome. I mean, just again, imagine coming to Los Angeles in February. If you're a Bucks fan, if you're a Thunder fan, if you're a fan of a team in the Midwest where it's been below 10 degrees the last several days, 75 and sunny in February? Sign me up. Now, James, I don't know if this is another problem before I get to the last two comments here. But maybe, though, just maybe, does anyone agree with Rajon Rondo, who said that the NBA All-Star Game should be in warm weather markets every season and not going to Indianapolis or Cleveland or Chicago because players don't want to go to the game because of the weather conditions in February? Like, always have the game on the West Coast or in Florida or maybe in Texas. Maybe is that also a reason or something that maybe could be done? I don't think location matters. Guys just don't want to play. I think Rondo's got a good point, but I think it's stretching the truth to a media timeout and too far from my liking. Valid, but I don't agree with that notion whatsoever. James does agree, though. Adam Silver has lost the league. I've gone to bat for this guy a lot, James, but now I think after this weekend, it's hard for me to do. It really is. He was one of my top commissioners, along with Gary Bettman and Don Garber of MLS. But now I think it's Bettman and Garber for my top two favorites. Again, I don't care for the NFL product, so screw Goodell. But Adam Silver, again, I think has gone from being my top guy to like guy number 3. Christy Ferris says that the NBA has also completely lost their way. Yeah, they have. I agree, Christy. They have. I think, Christy, that the last 3 All-Star games, again, just don't lie, like I've said. The last 3 All-Star games have had below 6 million viewers on TNT. Then you pour that gasoline on the fire. That TNT is out of the equation come next season. Even that also, I think, is also a problem, too. James does agree. He says, Cal, I agree with what Rondo is saying, and it works for the Super Bowl with warm weather, but the players with families won't care if there's places to go out. That is a true point. And also, James, I think it's a little bit harder, I think, to compare the Super Bowl to the NBA All-Star Weekend. Because the week of the Super Bowl, James, I think you would know pretty well, man, there's a lot of moving parts. Daily media availability, so many interviews, so much media and publicity around the game. Where the All-Star Weekend, there's not a lot there, other than maybe when Adam Silver gives his State of the League address. Which I think I heard him say he kind of said he was empathetic towards the Maverick fans for the trade of Luka Doncic, but he would not further take action about collusion regarding Nico Harrison at one point being Kobe's rep for Nike when he was with the Lakers and stuff like that, or that the team won't be sold and will not be moved to Vegas. But there's so many problems. And again, I know I've been kind of defending the NBA for the last several months and years, but now I think I'm just at my wit's end. And it's not even about the trade of Luka Doncic. It's just the business model and what we saw this weekend just has made this league a total embarrassment, sadly. And again, as someone who has loved basketball, because I work in college basketball, I've worked in the NBA G League, I was a WNBA podcast host for 5 years, and just loving the NBA product, and having access to watch the Lakers and Clippers down here in San Diego, and the Clippers having their G League team now here in Oceanside, California, in James' neck of the woods. The NBA product is hurting, and it's hurting more and more and more and more. Is tough to swallow at this rate. And James agrees. The NBA as a whole is collusion. Go college basketball. Man. College hoops is on another level right now. I was going to talk about that story about regarding the potential opportunity or about the expansion, perhaps, of the of March Madness, but we'll save that for James and I on Monday instead. And James says he'll be there for Clippers for the Clipper game tomorrow at Front Wave here in Oceanside, California, down or up north in San Diego. James, if I was not going on Sunday to watch my beloved San Diego Football Club play the LA Galaxy on Sunday, I would have joined you on Friday because I have the whole week off until next Wednesday. But I'm going to try to get to a game, though, up there sooner than later when I have a chance. Speaking of people with strong opinions about the NBA, not just Callan McClurg, but ESPN NHL analyst PK Subban body slammed the NBA All-Star Weekend and also the NBA players as a whole by sharing a harsh word critique when he was asked on ESPN's First Take on Tuesday about the realities of the NBA All-Star Game compared to the NHL's recently concluded Four Nations face-off on Thursday night. Subban highlights the stark differences in player engagement between the NHL's Four Nation face-off and the NBA All-Star Game by further arguing that hockey's culture emphasizes playing through the pain and prioritizing team and national pride in regards to the Four Nations face-off, which he also contrasts with the NBA's perceived focus on individual gain and also load management. Subban also said, "What are you playing for?" and challenged the NBA stars to consider their motivations beyond money and questioning their commitment to fans in the game. He also further echoed hurt versus injured, drawing a distinct fine line between being hurt and injured, emphasizing hockey players' willingness to play through all sorts of pain. Subban also then praised the NHL players' commitment to the Four Nations face-off by player-driven engagement, suggesting that the NBA lacks similar player-driven enthusiasm for its All-Star Game. And he also stressed that the fans want to see genuine effort and passion from athletes and that the NBA is falling short in delivering that. The NBA's problem is also the perceived lack of care from the players during the All-Star Game and the amount of players sitting out during the regular season. Can we all please stand and applaud from wherever you're watching, and please join me in that round of applause, please, for PK Subban? No, I did not do that because this is a former hockey player who said this, and that I work in the sport of hockey, and I have for 17 years. And I've gone to over 800 games in my lifetime between the NHL and minor league hockey. This is the most genuine bullseye. Mike Breen for three, bang. Most spot on assessment about the NBA and the All-Star Game, and I think the NBA as a whole. Now, I know that PK Subban is here comparing apples to oranges, comparing the NBA to the NHL product. You know, a league in the NBA who's been around for 75 years, mainly has been American-driven with, you know, some outreach in Canada with Vancouver and Toronto at one point in time. And that the NHL is a growing sport in the States, further being bolstered right now, though, by a 32-team league that has gone to non-traditional hockey markets like Southern California. California as a whole was in Arizona, went to Seattle, has gone to Vegas, has gone to Texas, has gone to Florida, has gone to new places where the game has exploded over the past 25 to 30 plus years, if not longer. But PK Subban, folks, who you might recall was best known for his time in Montreal with the Canadiens and was a fan favorite of the Habs. And you might recall that PK donated, I believe, $5 million to the local Children's Hospital of Montreal, and he was traded, I think, 2 days later to Nashville. But PK Subban, folks, hit the absolute perfect nail on the head. He made a full court shot here. And he basically dunked on the NBA like I do on a former host of this network. And I watched that 2.5-minute long rant that he had. I felt like I was in the locker room hearing him when he was captain in Montreal and even an assistant captain down in Nashville giving his intermission speech about how the team was not playing well or how they were playing in general. Now, yes, you can argue, well, the NHL didn't do an all-star game this year. They did this four nations face-off thing and guys didn't take it seriously. They absolutely did take it seriously. Again, there's a difference here. It's one thing when you're wearing the Mighty Duck logo or the King silver and black or the Golden Knights gold. But when you've got the letters USA on your chest, or you've got that red maple leaf on your chest, or those three navy blue crowns on the yellow sweater, or the lion head on that white uni with light blue trim, you're playing for more than just your organization. You're playing for a whole entire nation. I think 3 fights in 9 seconds and 4.4 million viewers and a peak audience of 5.2 million and a climax of 10 million viewers last Saturday for USA Canada. That should tell you something. So let's go through these bullet points while we can. It is a culture thing. I've been a part of hockey teams as a player when I played inline hockey for 4 years. That culture emphasizes you play for the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. Herb Brooks, 1980 Olympic hockey team. The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one in the back. Get that through your head. Team sport. Next man up. That is a culture that starts day one when you come to training camp. And you can't have pockets of individuals on your roster, which is kind of, I think, where the NBA's at. It's LeBron and Luka and the rest of the guys on the Lakers. It's James Harden and the rest of the guys with the Clippers. It's KD, D-Book, and Bradley Beal in Phoenix. There's no true team buy-in. It's Joel Embiid and the 76ers. It's not a full-fledged meshed unit. Team chemistry is of paramount proportions. You know, and right now the NBA is kind of like all about me and not about we. And guys care more about sending out games and not giving those fans who pay their hard-earned money a chance to watch them play. Trust me, I feel awful for those of you who are LeBron fans and don't live in LA or live in Southern California, and you don't get the chance to see him come to your market as often as LA does, or Phoenix, or the Pac Division. Like, I feel awful for you fans who live in Boston or in Miami or Cleveland or Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indianapolis. You only get to see LeBron come one time and one time only. And that you save your hard-earned money to be able to afford a ticket, pay for parking, grab a few brewskis, grab some food, grab a, whatnot. Then you show up to the arena and then you find out he's not going to play. It's like, well, I don't care if my team wins. I came to watch LeBron play. He ain't playing. I just wasted $2,500 on my whole trip. And this guy's not even playing. That's where hockey wins that one. You can almost pretty much guarantee that a guy that you like on your roster in the NHL will be playing, unless he is legitimately injured or he's out sick. Now I agree with PK too. What are you guys playing for in the NBA? That again goes to someone in the way of the team buy-in. You know, if you can put your personal needs and personal wants aside and be a team player, that's how teams are successful. As I love to say, well, I got $250 in the bank. What are you going to do about it? You know, when we all die, no one's going to care about viewership on this network or what my bank account reads from my bank when I'm in the grave. They'll remember you for how you were as a person and what that legacy will be that you leave behind. So when you can stop worrying about the paychecks coming in and actually show some commitment to your fan base and the entire global NBA fan base as a whole and the sport, and don't treat it like an afterthought, people will start to respect you and actually start to enjoy your product again. Let's go now to hurt versus injured. There's a difference. I have played hurt. I have been injured. And being sick, I believe, would be playing hurt. I worked the latter part of a month and a half or 2 months last year sick with, I believe, a form of walking pneumonia, it felt like. But I still went out there. Though this thing here was not at 100%, I went out there and worked. And worked and worked and worked and worked. I played hurt several times. Bad ankles, bad knees, bad back, bad elbow. You know, being hurt or, you know, injuries I've had and I still deal with on a daily basis because of me playing for so long. Hockey players are just a different breed. Matthew Tkachuk played an entire Stanley Cup final against Vegas 2 years ago with a broken sternum. His brother had to basically forklift him out of bed to get him out of bed in the morning. Teammates and trainers had to help him put his gear on in the locker room. Yet he went out there and played a 7-game series with a broken sternum. That would have broken the common man. But heaven forbid a baseball player or a basketball player gets a cramp in their calf from sleeping the wrong way, or they get a hangnail from cutting their fingernails too short and they're out for 4 to 6 weeks. Willing to sacrifice for the name on the front of the jersey exceeds expectations by far and away. When you watch a hockey game and you're watching that final minute of play in a close game where a team's up by 1, and you see guys diving headfirst to block a shot, and they block it kind of maybe in a way where there's no padding, like near the rib area, they're willing to do whatever it takes to win that game. From regular season game 1 to regular season game 82. Whatever it takes. Player-driven engagement. I know a lot of people maybe had their reservations about this Four Nations face-off. Rightfully so, though. This was a de facto all-star break. 4 teams played a round robin. Top 2, USA, Canada played for all the marbles, and it was won by Canada in OT on Thursday night. The commitment, folks, when you see 3 fights in 9 seconds, led by Matthew and Brody Tkachuk, and then JT Miller fighting, pre-planned or not, don't give me any of that nonsense. That right there showed you the buy-in about this tournament. I know a lot of people who either aren't hockey fans, who are, casual fans, Those who, after 11 games as a fan, think they know it all and that they know more about hockey than those who know more about the sport are saying, holy cow, this is the best thing ever. That's telling you something. And that the NBA is lacking the same player-driven enthusiasm, I think not just for the All-Star game, but just for the whole season. It's simple. If you're scared to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. You have to get that fear out of your mind. Now, I will say firsthand that I have not played a organized, roller or inline hockey game in a long time. I did play a couple weeks ago. Yes, because of the fact that both of my kneecaps are prone to dislocations because I'm so damn tall, that is up here a little bit. But I'm not going to not play in the game because I'm worried about the kneecaps dislocating. I'll still play. So the player enthusiasm is at the bottom of the barrel. And PK Subban further said it right. All the fans want, James, Christy, myself, Big B, Adam, Jason, Sarge, all we want is some genuine effort. Show some effort and just show some passion for the game. And the NBA is just nowhere near that right now. And when the NBA barks up the tree of like, oh, why are our ratings so bad? It's the last bullet point. Perceived lack of care from the players during the All-Star game, along with how it trickles from the All-Star game, how that funnels in from the regular season. Yeah, All-Star game. I don't care. I don't want to play. So again, don't give me this baloney about Dalton Knecht being a first-time NBA All-Star. Those kids have everything to prove. That's why they played their ass off in that game to get into the actual ASG. But then it was a walk in the park for all of the veterans. That was like a freshman sophomore team or a JV team rolling into the gym to play the varsity squad who, beat them with one arm behind their back. Again, that is not good business for the NBA. So again, PK Subban. Again, I'm not doing that as a hockey fan, folks. I just think that PK spoke the damn truth. And I think I spoke the truth, too, a segment ago and now even here. But again, PK Subban, props. James agrees. He loves PK's rant. He is one of one. He also loved the hurt versus injured argument. And also, he said, tough versus soft. NHL guys being tough guys, the NBA being soft. And James agrees. Even Kendrick Perkins agreed with PK earlier on Tuesday. James, though, how am I not surprised, though, about Kendrick Perkins agreeing? It goes to another point I brought up here several times on here, and I think on our show, James. Kendrick Perkins cut from a different cloth of NBA lore and history, having to face Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. The stories of when Kobe trucked his own teammate during the Olympic Games, USA Spain, when he ran through Pau Gasol's chest. But again, James, Kendrick Perkins, NBA great from a different era of the NBA. Rope him in with Chuck, Kenny, Shaq, Jalen Rose. I would even throw Candace Parker in there. They're all cut from a different cloth of NBA knowledge and NBA history. Again, Candace Parker's favorite player, James, she told me, was Ron Harper of the Bulls. She loved Michael Jordan, James, but her favorite player was Ron Harper. I think won a ring with the Lakers, I think, in the early 2000s. But again, Kendrick, yes, James, I know he's not a great, but again, what I'm saying, Kendrick Perkins, NBA player from a different era of when the game was played, like Shaq, like Chuck, like Kenny. Back when guys, as you said here in your other comment, back like in '87 in Seattle, where players actually cared about if their conference won or lost the All-Star game. We're way beyond that time. And James also agrees that it's great to hear that Candace picked Ron Harper. He was severely underrated. I agree. And you know what? I think James a great glue guy for those Bulls teams back in the 90s. I think Candace still did. I think Candace James did a phenomenal job coaching that team. But again, though, James, sadly, that team that she coached had everything to lose and nothing to gain, because we all knew if they once, whoever got in from that play-in game, they were going to get crushed. So again, Connect ain't no superstar and he ain't no all-star. Just cut me the BS. James says that the league was going to let Parker's team play the championship, or he says no way the league was going to let Parker's team play for the title. Of course not. That's why I said when I hear James that baloney argument, oh well, did Caitlin Clark do this in her All-Star game? Well, yeah, she was voted in by the general population. People in Chicago who don't like her probably voted for her to get into the All-Star game. Yeah, there's a major difference between the public having a say than just, being selected to fill roster spots because guys didn't want to play. And again, all those rookies had everything to lose in that game. So again, enough with the baloney. Let's, folks, move on now to another topic here in college football. Is expansion officially coming again for the postseason and for the CFP? The commissioners of both the Big Ten and SEC want to move to a straight seeding system, which aligns the rankings with seed positions to eliminate any oddities seen in the first ever 12-team bracket for the college football playoff. This change would also require unanimous approval from the CFP management committee. This past format was a 12-team format and prioritized the 4 highest-rated ranked conference champions, leading to some teams with lower rankings receiving higher seeds and also bids. Automatic qualification of conference champions led to much controversy with the last team to make the playoff. The Big Ten and SEC will gain greater control over the CFP decisions in 2026. Further expansion of the playoff field beyond 12 teams is also expected, with it potentially going to 14 or 16 teams. This expansion could also include multiple automatic bids for the Big Ten and SEC and more home games for top seeds if they, in fact, expand the tournament. Do I have to say my famous line, James, and Christian viewers out there? There is never going to be a perfect, squeaky clean, wash the hands format for college football for a playoff. I did say, though, I want to give this 12-team format at least 3 to 5 years before we make any more drastic changes. But if we're already talking about tweaks for next season, then no, don't even bother. If all we're going to do is continue to add more Big Ten and SEC schools into this mix, we're losing fans. We're going to be losing interest in the CFP. And I would be kind of terrified if I'm a mid-major or another conference not named the Big Ten or SEC, reading the third to last bullet point that the Big Ten and SEC get greater control of the CFP over decisions in 2026. So how will that help Notre Dame not in a conference? How does that help the schools that just moved and killed the Pac-12 conference, like an SC and UCLA, or even a Big 12 and ACC? So for all the times that I have said that realignment won't work, here we go. Please screen grab this slide. Where in there does it say that this will benefit the Atlantic Coast Conference or Big 12 Conference? Again, all the realignment might be great for football, but I don't see those other conferences listed. Let me look a little further. It's Big 10 SEC, Big 10 SEC, Big 10 SEC. I don't see any other conference there that gets any kind of say or was mentioned like the Atlantic Coast or the Big 12 or the Mountain West or what will be the new look Pac-12 in 2026. Which again will further go to my point that there is never going to be a proper college football playoff system that we all agree upon. I just say screw it and adapt the FCS system. Because that's where I think we're heading pretty soon. It just feels that way. Yes, I know bowl season takes forever and that no one watches the Holiday Bowl because no one cares about San Diego. No one cares about the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio or the Liberty Bowl in Memphis or the Sun Bowl in El Paso or the LA Bowl at SoFi. Well, that's really the only time that I care to watch college football if I'm not working FCS football at USD. Because there has to be constellation prizes. As much as I know that James wants to kill the bowl system, if we're only going to be doing this, then what does that say about all these other mid-major conferences who will lose recruits and lose kids to the bigger schools? So again, please, somebody who loves realignment, please tell me how this will benefit the Big 12 or ACC or other conferences out there. If we're just going to stand here and let these two other conferences dictate and take over or gain more power. Come on, is this really Emperor Palpatine after throwing Mace Windu out the window in Episode 3 of Star Wars? Unlimited power? That's kind of what we're doing here by giving with the Big Ten and SEC. Greater control means more power in decision making in a year. And also, is there buyer's remorse now? Looking at you, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, Stanford, my beloved Cal Bears. You guys have any buyer's remorse yet? Who was right? I believe, again, you have to give the 12-team format another 2 to 3 to 5 years. I do agree, though, that there are changes that have to be made. I think James and I were on board for whatever the top 25 is. Your top 12 teams in that ranking are your 12 seeds. You know, don't worry about 6-6 or 5-7 or 4-8 or 3-9 or 2-10 or 1-11 when it comes to conference champs. Top 25, top 12. If you're in the top 12, you're in. Simple. But again, you're pushing the envelope here by going beyond 12 teams. Because I do believe, I do firmly 100% agree and think if this goes beyond 14 to 16 teams, we will be having a 32-team FCS-style bracket that will involve a lot of the regular, no value added. I don't like these bowl games on the schedule, like the Holiday Bowl, the Rate Bowl, Sun Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, the Military Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl. I really feel like we're heading down that road. And it's not the only road, it's not the only road we've ever known. But that's where I think if you go that route, then you can incorporate the bowl season that I know no one out there likes but me. But if we were to fully just detonate and blow up the bowl system and not play the Holiday Bowl, then all these other mid-major programs are losing more money, and they're going to be losing more players. Yes, it's a long process and a long time, and it's boring. Think about all those schools that go to Albuquerque, in San Diego, San Antonio, El Paso. They go to play probably their last ever football game if they're a senior. And if they win, they get a trophy and they get a banner and they get a chunk of change for playing in the game. This is a bad idea. And don't tell, and Callan McClurg told you so. You know, I will flex what muscle I have to say that I told you so about college realignment. Because this is only further hurting all the schools who just left old conferences, chasing the money bag, hoping to get into the playoff, and now there's not even a mention or a sniff of the ACC or Big 12 on this list. But we'll let Emperor Palpatine and his buddy Darth Vader get unlimited power if we're the Big 10 or SEC to get more control over decision-making for the CFP in a year. So this is how the college football expansion dies, with thunderous applause, regarding the Big 10 and the SEC getting full, what feels like full unlimited power over what the committee will say to do. What a travesty. James further says that, Callan, you mean that favorites in popular schools only get in is what those commissioners really mean to say? Bingo. To quote your boy Ralph Lawler, bingo! Only the blue bloods get the fair shot, or get a shot to get in. Sorry, Boise State. Sorry, ASU. Sorry, Liberty. Sorry, Clemson. Sorry, SMU. We want 3-loss Bama to get in. You know, we want the big shiny objects. Basically, James, we want the big markets for college athletics to get into the CFP every year. That's literally what this is. And it's a flat-out disgrace to college football and college sports out there. Because your Trojans and my Bears got so money-hungry about football revenue, they killed the Conference of Champions and left it in the graveyard for San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State, the Gonzaga men's basketball team to pick up the scraps. Travesty. James Ferber says that the ACC and Big 12 look more like little brothers there in 2026. And again, James, who's been the biggest loudmouth out there on C2C when it comes to realignment? It's the guy 45 minutes south of you in San Diego, California. James also says, and he thinks no way that this will get unanimous approval. I don't think, James, it will either, but I would be I'm very concerned. I really am. That this could be a very long, dragged-out process. It could involve lawsuits. It could involve more bickering of ADs and coaches. School chancellors and presidents get involved, James. This could get ugly. This really could get ugly at this rate. I really do think so. It's just a very scary thought to think, though, that 2 of the Power 4 conferences could be assuming greater power and greater control over decisions involving the college football playoff in just a year's time. And the potential to go beyond 12 teams is also worrisome. That this is going to be a longer, dragged-out playoff. You'll have more games involving teams who probably don't deserve to be there, who get blown out. Is that good business for college football? I don't think so. James also says that, let's be real, though, Cal, there's only a Power 2 when it comes to college football conferences. I guess, James, I don't particularly know about that. I'm guessing there is. But again, what do I know about American football, right? You know, ask that dingbat former co-host on this, or host of this network, that, you know, doesn't think I know anything about any sport in general. You know who I'm talking about, Big Game James. Wink, wink. Let's move on now, folks, to our final topics here, the press clippings, the 3 stories that we cannot get to in its full entirety here this evening on this Thursday episode of Press Row, folks. We'll start off, though, back in the NFL, but the Chicago Bears, citing what they are calling marketing dynamics, industry trends, and a strong home schedule. The Bears are increasing season seat prices by a full 10% for the upcoming season. That strong home schedule could be attributed to the fact that the Bears were the only NFC North team that did not make the postseason this past year, while the Bears are also set to host the Browns, Cowboys, Giants, Saints, and Steelers at Soldier Field. They're coming off a dismal 5-win season and also firing Matt Eberflus midseason and hiring Ben Johnson as their new head coach. There was a writer for the Bears who had a great story or great comment in the Bears Wire on USA Today, who said there should be a rule that if you win X amount of games, you can't raise your season seat prices by more than that percentile. So since the Bears won 5 games, they should not be allowed to go beyond 5%. I thought it was a very funny quote. Again, folks, no surprise that despite the increase, folks, Kevin Warren, the CEO, said it right, though. Marketing dynamics, trends in the industry, and the home schedule are 3 key reasons why I can understand that prices do go up. Though I know I said the same thing a while back about when the Panthers raised their ticket prices for season seats after a 2-win season in Carolina, I felt it was unfair. But I also asked a friend of mine, Brandon Wright Rowan, on Monday at our weekly Bino meetup at a Peer Project in North Park here in San Diego at a bar. We play flick soccer with friends of ours on Monday nights for cash prizes, and we go and drink and have a good time. I asked him, though, because he's a Padre season seat holder. He said, and I asked him, so how much did your season seats go up this upcoming year? He said, very small percentile, but I think I'm paying like about $1,700 for my seats behind home plate in the upper level. That, though, is a complete stark difference. When you're like the Padres, where you've gone to the playoffs 3 times in 5 years, and you have seen your team for the first time probably in your lifetime, like me, spend money, get star players, and actually put a winning team on the field, though, the demand does increase. The market dynamics do go up. The trends of the industry do go up. And also the home schedule, which I know, of course, is led by the Dodgers, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies in the division. and all but teams in the National League, but also again interleague. For example, like the Red Sox come here this year, the Angels come here in mid-May. For example, the Royals come here, the Orioles come here. Like I get those are things though, but the Bears though, man, sadly they did sadly they are mourning though the passing of a longtime owner. Mama Bear Hollis, Virginia McCaskey Hollis, who passed away at 102 years old earlier in the year. What a life, by the way. I know though that there was a bad rap against Virginia, but wow, 102 years old, inheriting the Bears from her dad when George passed away before they won the Super Bowl in '85. What a life, though. What a life lived, despite the mediocrity and the family drama. What a life lived, though, by Miss McCaskey Hollis, and all of our best go to her and her family and the Bears organization. But why, though, James? I'll one up you. The Bears aren't trending. Ha ha ha. What? He also said it's a hey, maybe we'll be better next season. James, no, scratch that. You know what it's for, James? It's a new stadium in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Why, James, do I feel like that is the sole proponent of why this is happening? The Bears have been scouting outside of Soldier Field for a new stadium, looking now at the suburbs. So, James, why does this feel like, though, this is a cop-out for the Bears to raise the prices and keep that revenue pocketed for the new stadium? Or James agrees, though, about the downtown stadium. Either way, James, it's for the project in general, whether it's in Arlington Heights or in downtown. Why does this feel like, though, it's a ploy to start banking revenue and money to begin that new project, whether it's in Arlington Heights or in downtown? That's what I think. And let's be frank, out of what will be on their home schedule, out of the divisional opponents, I wouldn't go to watch any of those other teams listed, minus Pittsburgh. Cleveland? Y'all still them boys in Dallas? The Giants? And the Aints? No, thank you. I wouldn't bother to watch any of those teams at Soldier Field, maybe minus the divisional opponents. They were all in the playoffs last year. Exactly, James. No one would want to go see those three teams play. I think you can cut the minutia about the strong home schedule part out of that. Call it what it is. The market has changed, the industry has changed, and we know damn well you're building a new stadium. Come on and just say it. Your prices have gone up because we're building a brand new stadium for the Bears. Just call it for what it is. Simple as that. We'll move, folks, now to auto racing. The Daytona 500's TV ratings, though, from this past weekend suffered once again from bad weather in Florida for the first race of the season, but the Great America Race still produced the most-watched sporting event of the crowded President's Day weekend. Fox drew an average about 6.76 million viewers for Sunday's race, which was delayed several hours by rainstorms down in Florida. NASCAR moved the start time up to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. The race began shortly after 2, but was halted after 11 laps because of rain, resumed after 6 p.m., but only, again, suffered more delays because of the rain. And then by roughly 6:20 Eastern time, the race finally resumed without any further delays, and finally was won by William Byron at 9:37 p.m. Eastern time on Fox television. And even then, a rain-delayed Daytona 500 race in Daytona Beach, Florida, drew 2 million more viewers than the NBA All-Star Weekend game. NASCAR beat out the NBA All-Star game by about 2 million viewers on Sunday. That goes back to my point, folks, earlier. That is embarrassing for the NBA. To have NASCAR stuck in weather delay after weather delay in Daytona Beach. They literally and figuratively lapped you in viewership. for a race won by a guy that I've never heard of in NASCAR. They went for 11 laps, stopped the race for 5 hours, resumed, or 4 hours, resumed, stopped again, resumed again 20 plus minutes later, and finally ended at 9:37 Eastern time. And they still drew 2 million more viewers in the NBA All-Star game. Embarrassing if you are the NBA. Brutal. Speaking of basketball, the WNBA is again still considering expansion beyond its 16th team. The 12-team league will open up this upcoming year with 13 teams coming up, with the Golden State Valkyries joining the league up in San Francisco, and have already committed, though, to adding teams in San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, and up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, in both 25 and 26, leaving one spot open. But the Sports Business Journal, though, has already reported that the league is right now reconsidering its original expansion plans and could go to 18 teams, with Houston, Texas, Miami, Florida, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Nashville, Tennessee, and Detroit, Michigan, all strong candidates to get the other 2 spots if they exist, though, while Cleveland has now also emerged as the league's potential spot for a 16th team. This, folks, again, kind of went to the, not tense, but kind of the back and forth James and I had on Monday. So I know that James was very kind of high about, oh, the NBA should bring Steph Curry to the All-Star game for the WNBA this summer for the three-point shootout. And that's where I kind of said, no. Not because of the NBA All-Star game being an embarrassment, but like I said, though, this league has to grow on their own now. And where we are right now, folks, with the rise in popularity in women's sports, what Caitlin Clark, what Angel Reese, what Cameron Brink, what that rookie class helped do last season. Now what we may have going forward, with Paige Beckers going perhaps to Dallas next season, what happens with Juju Watkins and Lauren Betts pretty soon, that we are now entering, folks, a golden era for what the WNBA will be. And that we need to let these ladies grow their league on their own. We don't need Steph. We don't need Clay. We don't need LeBron. We don't need anybody from the NBA currently to kind of, in a way, infiltrate and then get all the credit, though, when the league has great ratings, though, on TV. Let CC22, let Chi-Town Barbie, let Cam Brink, and let these ladies do their magic. Let them work. Let them build upon what they have built over the last season. And the fact that all these bids now are coming in from Houston and Miami and Philly, Nashville, Detroit, and now Cleveland, apparently, per all the reports, will get that 16th team. This is incredible. On top of the NWSL adding Denver, Colorado for their next expansion market. Like I've said, I should get it on a shirt. What a time to get on board and be a women's sports fan. Not turn your nose up at it, not give me all the BS about I'd rather have $5 and not have, my local WNBA team win a championship. It's time for those days to come to an end. I know they won't, though. But look at where we're at now, folks. That a 12-team league will now go to 13, 14, 15, eventually 16 teams, maybe 18, maybe 20 pretty soon. Where at one point the league was at 8 and could never get beyond 12 teams. So I do think Cleveland becomes the next spot. And I really hope, though, that the league keeps those other cities in the loop, and they go to those markets eventually. I'd love to see that happen. Bring back the Comets, the OG dynasty of the WNBA. Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, the late great Kim Perot, God bless her soul. Bring back the Miami Soul, Sandy Rondello's team at one point. Try going to Philly. Try going to Nashville. Candace Parker's on board with that ownership group in Nashville. The Nashville Summit would be the team name, and they'd be orange and blue like the Lady Vols. And yes, go back to Detroit and bring back the Detroit Shock. Plennett Pearson, Swin Cash, Bill Lambier, Rick Mahorn. 3 championships. Better. Bring back the Sacramento Monarchs. Put a team put a team back in Salt Lake City. What a time. I'm so happy. I'm thrilled, and I'm excited to see, though, where women's sports is going. Having been a advocate for women's sports since I was in 8th grade in 2008, and getting my fair share of flack from people out there that, you're a guy. Why are you worrying about women's sports? Because they deserve our love and respect and our support. Especially for everyone out there. And I said this, I think, once, folks. The thing that always drove me nuts would be seeing people on the web write some stupid-ass, smart-ass, snarky remark about women's sports on a women's sports post on the web. Yet that poster or that person that writes that commentary or writes that trash, they have their daughter or their niece in their picture. What a great example you're setting. Crapping upon women's sports while having your daughter or niece in your picture on the web. Some father, some uncle you are. Yeah, just crush their dreams of them wanting to play sports by writing and spewing that garbage and malarkey on a post about women's sports. I don't know. I think, though, when the NWSL goes to San Diego, California, and they sell out a 35,000-seat soccer stadium, their first ever home game at the new stadium, the club in LA also draws 22,500 every game day. Relaunching a team in Salt Lake City for the Utah Royals, and they sell out every home game at Rio Tinto Stadium or America First Field in Sandy, Utah. And now the WNBA, because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Cameron Brink in an amazing rookie class, are moving games from college arenas and civic centers and music halls to T-Mobile Arena or to American Airlines Center or State Farm Arena. I do think women's sports are going somewhere, especially now the WNBA is going to 3 new markets. And they now have bids for 6 other cities. Plenty of time to get on board, folks. Yes, everyone watches women's sports. Whether you like it or not, folks, they're not going anywhere. We're not going to play political volleyball here about what's going on with Title IX and other things going on there. They are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And again, I am just proud. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. And just really excited to see that women's sports is finally taken off. And that more love and respect in sport is being shown finally by sports fans out there. However, I will say, though, that you can't get complacent. You got to keep going forward. With that, folks, we'll conclude our program for this evening. Glad to be back with you folks here. I should say sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. A couple of thoughts real quick that James first wrote about the Daytona 500 surpassing the NBA All-Star Game in ratings. That's bad. Again, James, 4.7 million viewers. 13% nosedive. And a rain-soaked and rainy and wet and cold Daytona 500 still drew 6.76 million viewers during rain delays on Fox. James also asked, Cal, be honest with me, do you think that Philly would support a WNBA team? I don't know, James. I've long said, though, that I have felt, though, that this is a ploy or bargaining chip to get Dawn Staley to leave South Carolina eventually, because she's from Philly. She always wears her Eagles gear when they're playing during the course of their season. On top of the fact she played at Virginia, then coached at Temple, which I believe is in the greater Philadelphia area. I'm literally about that. I also should mention, folks, that Boston has also put a bid in via former NBA player Michael Carter Williams and actor Donnie Wahlberg for a team in Boston. That is due to the fact that the Connecticut Sun have played exhibition games at the Garden, and they have been sellout crowds at TD Garden in Boston for the Sun. That'd be a great rivalry too, by the way. Wow, Connecticut versus Boston. But James, I just don't know about. I'm very torn on Philly. Again, I feel like it's more of a thing to maybe, hey, head coach of the Philadelphia Squires. I don't know, Dawn Staley. Whatever the name of the team would be. That's where I think I'm kind of getting at here. I also I believe, confirm that there is discussion that the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, they are also, I believe, entering a bit of a timeline now for their expansion teams, I believe, within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So every women's sports league is thriving. WNBA, NWSL, PWHL, you name it. Love to see it. I love to see it. I don't know about you, but I love to see it. James also says, simple. Cleveland, Houston, and Miami should all get their teams back. I agree. James, I went to a point, I think I said a while back, about the Portland bid that is being launched by the same family who owns the Portland Thorns of the NWSL, who, by the way, per reports, they are going to be building a $75 million dual practice facility for both the Thorns and I'm guessing the Fire for the WNBA. So a dual soccer and basketball training facility for the Portland women's sports teams. But James, to my point, though, going back now, Cleveland, Houston, Portland, the Bay Area, Miami, that again reaffirms my thoughts that those markets, other than Houston, never got the chance to really embrace women's basketball or women's sports, like the Rockers, the Soul, the Fire, the Monarchs, who, again, I know they won a championship at one point in time in 2009, I believe. They won a title with Kara Lawson, I believe, on their team. I absolutely agree, James, that those markets should, and those games will be packed. Because 2003, 2004 is a different dynamic now than 2024, than 2024, 2025, by leaps and bounds in the imagination. So, James, I agree that all the old markets should be getting priority. Boston getting the NWSL team, by the way, would also be a pretty nice little added bonus to the bid for the team that MCW and Donnie Wahlberg are trying to launch and get in Boston. And James also says he could see Salt Lake City. Jazz, the Hockey Club, the Bees, the Royals, RSL. Probably the second fastest growing sports market behind Vegas, James. I'm on board. But with that in mind, folks, we will see you folks again in 2 weeks' time. I cannot be here next Thursday due to work obligations, so we'll come back at you folks coming up on March the 6th, back here at 10 o'clock Pacific time, right back here on C2C. Thanks again to James and Christy for joining me here tonight in the chat box. We'll see you folks again back here again 2 weeks' time, March 6th, back here at 10 p.m. right here on C2C. Till then, folks, have a good night. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Till then, bye-bye.